Hello, everyone. Today we're going to go through some specific criticisms of the cartoon I spoke about in a video the other day. A link to the original video is in the description. If you forgot what the cartoon was, here it is. It is an image of this nugget-looking tanky. The tanky is saying, "Are you telling me Nazi Germany had red flags, called itself socialist, and was opposed to America? Looks like I have a new favorite dictatorship." It has a green background. Anyways, we shall go through criticisms one at a time. I will show them on screen. Hopefully this is amusing and informative. Some of these criticisms are very interesting. Unfortunately, when I snipped out these comments, I forgot to include the upvotes. You cannot see it, but some of these stupid comments have quite a few. The quality of the images of these replies is also bad. I tried, but they just came out looking weird for some reason. Anyway, time to begin. The first criticism says, "Didn't tankies defeat the Nazis, though?" The issue with this criticism is pretty obvious. The cartoon is not saying that tankies are literally Nazis. It's saying that tankies support nation-states for stupid reasons that could lead to them supporting all manner of evil nation-states. That's what the cartoon's saying. So whether or not tankies defeated the Nazis is irrelevant. And by the way, it seems pretty weird to say tankies defeated the Nazis. The Soviet Union did, but I feel like when I say tanky in the modern context, I mean hyper-online tankies. I don't mean random Soviet Red Army soldiers. So I think that's pretty obvious. And it's not saying that tankies are Nazis, it's saying that they have tendencies of supporting evil governments for evil reasons that could essentially lead to them supporting any bad government, such as the Nazis. That's the first criticism out of the way. We've got quite a few more, so let's continue. The second criticism says, "I agree with the message, but you probably could have said it in a less ableist way." There's a lot of criticisms like this, and I find them very weird. All these accusations of ableism. I don't really understand how the cartoon is ableist. Is it ableist because the tanky doesn't have arms or legs? Or because it looks weird? If so, then I mean, does every cartoon have to have a perfectly structured, regular-looking person? Because if that's the case, then, isn't it kind of ableist to only allow cartoons that have these perfect images of people? That would be, pretty, weird. But anyway, I mean, just cartoons in general are always going to have weirdly shaped, weird-looking people. This is what cartoons are, and it's what they've always been. This isn't just political cartoons either. This is basically every cartoon. So, I mean, if you think that's ableist, then I guess you just won't be looking at any cartoons. And by the way, all the people saying this is ableist, I mean, I can guarantee they regularly look at cartoons and images of these contorted-looking people and stuff, and they probably like it. It's just they decided they didn't like this one. This person says they agree with the message, but I honestly don't know how true that is, because it seems pretty weird to accuse the image of being ableist if you're coming at it in good faith. Anyway, on to the next one. "So you're arguing that hardcore Stalinists are not tankies, and that actual tankies are Nazbol or neo-Nazis?" No, that's not what I'm arguing. I'm not saying... A lot of these criticisms are the same, as one thing you'll notice, but as I've gone over many times, and I think this is incredibly obvious, the cartoon is saying that tankies support nation-states for dumb reasons. Very stupid reasons that could be used to justify basically any evil nation-state. That's what the cartoon's saying with the hyperbolic example of Nazi Germany. It's not saying that tankies are Nazbols or neo-Nazis. Okay, so on to the next one. Someone says, "Okay, so to follow through, according to the meme, a tanky is someone who contemporaneously supports Nazi Germany on account of left aesthetics. That's a pretty high bar to use the term, unless you're broadly arguing that MLs are all secretly neo-Nazis." Once again, my response just has to be the same, because no, the cartoon is not saying that tankies all secretly love Nazi Germany. It's saying that they support states such as North Korea, Syria, China, and the USSR for very stupid reasons that could be used to defend and justify even the worst imaginable nation states, such as Nazi Germany. That's what the cartoon is saying. Anyway, on to the next criticism. I swim in a whole lot of online left circles, and I can tell you pretty definitively that people who really like Stalin really don't like Nazis. Once again, I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot here, but a lot of the comments go down this sort of path. This isn't relevant. If you don't like Nazis, that's completely irrelevant to the cartoon. If you have tendencies that lead to you supporting murderous authoritarian regimes and defending genocide and mass murder, then I don't care if you dislike Nazis. You support nation states for stupid reasons, and that's what the cartoon's saying. Not to mention, you can say you oppose Nazis all day long, but practically speaking that means nothing if you defend genocide, totalitarianism, mass murder, and all sorts of other horrible stuff. So I mean, anyway. On to the next criticism. My opponent equals smelly, ugly person. I mean, this is a criticism that you could just levy against literally, like, almost any political cartoon that's ever existed. This is the whole idea of caricature. This is just something that features in a huge range of political cartoons as symbolism of making your opponents look like monsters or look like awful creatures or whatever. This is a very old, just tool of political cartooning. You know, it would be pretty weird if you made all your opponents these, like, incredibly, like, attractive, lovely looking people. Like, that would be pretty weird. Cartoons just aren't really about that. And you also notice that if I'm drawing someone who's on my side, they'll probably still look, like, really gross and, like, weird. That's kind of just, like, the style that I prefer to use. But anyway. The next criticism. I love how Vosh has managed to convince his teenage followers that Nazis and tankies are somehow interchangeable and will always work with one another. But in reality, if you actually look at all of the time that capitalists have sided with the Nazis, it's overwhelming. This has basically nothing to do with my point, to be honest. I never said that Nazis and tankies are interchangeable, and if anyone looks at the cartoon and comes away with Nazis and tankies are the same, then they just are incapable of reading and interpreting it like cartoons. Like, they just can't do it. But, that's not the point. The point is that tankies support nation states for stupid reasons, and the idea that capitalists have sided with Nazis, I don't disagree, but that has nothing to do with my point. So I mean, like, who really cares? This cartoon isn't defending capitalism. This cartoon can be promoted from a socialist perspective. It's attacking tankies. Anyway. Another ableism criticism we have here. Nice ableism. If you think the cartoon's ableist, then I mean, it's just stupid because it looks weird as an image. What about almost every single political cartoon, and also extend that to every single other cartoon that exists? Like, cartoons just constantly have weird looking characters who are, like, out of proportion and stuff. If you think that's all ableism and you just want to, like, ban cartoons or, like, just get rid of cartoons completely from society, then, like, okay, but I think that's, like, pretty ridiculous, to be honest. Anyway. What's with the shirt tally marks? The shirt tally marks are just designed to be, like, sort of rough lines showing that the tankie's wearing, like, I don't know, some patchy sack with a hammer and sickle on it, I guess. They're not really meant to mean anything, and normally I don't actually put tally marks on anything. They're just nice lines. So anyway, I don't know if that was a criticism or a question, but I thought I'd add it in anyway. We have another criticism here. Isn't the portrayal of your political enemies with deliberately disproportioned features to make them look ugly and deformed a common feature of Nazi degeneracy rhetoric? Wow, so they've turned it on me. I'm actually the Nazi because I drew an ugly cartoon. Wow, they really got me with that one. No. All cartoons from all different political perspectives, well, not literally every single political cartoon, but, you know, countless cartoons coming from a communist perspective, a socialist perspective, a liberal perspective, a conservative perspective, a fascist perspective. Political cartoons from everywhere use caricature to make their opponents look weird, to look silly, and to mock them. You know, there's endless pictures where Hitler is depicted as this sort of hideous looking caricature, and I think that's completely fine, because you making these hideous looking caricatures, it's not a feature of Nazi degeneracy rhetoric. It's just a tool of cartooning. It's not like this image is portraying like Nazi degeneracy cartoons would probably be portraying like skull shapes or like different races or like something weird like that. Like, this isn't portraying that. I think there's obviously a big difference between portraying an ideology, just like drawing an ideology in like this weird looking caricature, and then drawing like a race in a caricature. I think that's like pretty different. And one of those things would be Nazi degeneracy rhetoric. One of them's just a regular caricature in political cartoons. And by this definition, like, you know, all those cartoons mocking Hitler and Mussolini and the Nazis and making them all look so like weird and caricatures, all of that would be Nazi degeneracy rhetoric. In reality, it isn't. It's just called caricature. But anyway, degeneracy rhetoric would be like race-focused or something like that. On to the next criticism. In a self-defense situation, I would absolutely decimate this user. This isn't a criticism, it's more like a very, very lame threat. That's what I'm going to interpret it as. But, anyway, it's pretty weird, but, I mean, don't know what else you'd expect. Another one, I like how these libs are trying to rip off Eli Valley's style, while definitely being the butt of a lot of their drawings. I always get these accusations from these spiteful, seething tankies of, you're stealing your ideas from somewhere. The thing is that, I have no idea who these people are. I don't know who Eli Valley is. Maybe he has really cool cartoons, I don't know. I barely ever look at the work of other artists. I just kind of, like, do my thing. And I certainly haven't stolen anything I do from anyone else. So, like, if someone has any evidence of that, like, I guess I'd like to see it. But the funny thing is, I'm imagining that if they see a similarity here, there's obviously this guy called Eli Valley that they like, and he probably does these cartoons too. I wonder, like, with these wrinkly, ugly caricatures, I wonder if they would call them Nazi degeneracy rhetoric, or is that only when someone they disagree with makes the cartoon? I mean, of course it is. Now, finally, as the last of these weird criticisms, we have liberals/fascists don't realize that tankies have standards. Yes, because people who support murderous genocidal dictators such as Stalin and Assad have such incredibly high standards. Yes, the tanky and their famous high standards of defending genocide and mass murder, and trying to justify totalitarianism and extreme hierarchy. Those incredibly reasonable tankies with their incredible standards. Tankies have no standards. To be honest, they're probably the political group, maybe with the one exception of Nazis, that has the lowest standards that exists. They'll support Assad, who believes in all manner of hierarchies. They'll defend Stalin. They defend all these people. They defend murder. They defend genocide. They defend dictatorship, authoritarianism, social conservatism. They'll defend anything if it comes under a red flag. And that's part of what the cartoon's saying, obviously. It's saying tankies will defend anything for stupid reasons. Call yourself socialist, have a red flag, and be anti-American, and you're the best friend of the tankies all of a sudden, as we see with the cases of Assad, Stalin, you know, North Korea, China, all of these different nations. So anyway, that was the last criticism we went through. I hope you found that a bit fun. There'll probably be more of these videos coming up, but anyway. So that is that, and those were a load of completely stupid criticisms. So.